Maybe the race that the sandboard circuit gave us today wasn't, overall, the most action-packed of the season. But it definitely gave us unexpected results, moments of tension, and, above all, a situation that could define the 2025 Drivers' World Championship. So sandboard could be a turning point, and it definitely won't leave anyone indifferent. With 9 rounds to go before the end of the 2025 season, the Netherlands closes its penultimate race in its history, at least for now, in Formula 1. But for us, it's time to tell you about the most important things that the 15th round of the Formula 1 World Championship, the Dutch Grand Prix, has left us. Unlike previous times, there have been few grid changes from penalties, just one this time. Oliver Berman was the one penalized. He was forced to start from the pit lane due to changes in his power unit. Taking advantage of starting 19th, the team had nothing to lose. He dominated all the practice sessions in qualifying. Lando Norris would be beaten in Q3 by Oscar Piastri, who took pole position by just 12 thousandths of a second. At a crucial moment on a track where passing is difficult. This in an effort to extend the gap in the drivers' standings and maintain the lead. Verstappen would be third this time, determined to use an aggressive strategy to seek a result that would normally be hard to achieve and give him a chance to fight for victory. But at least he was going to try something, even if it was extremely complicated. Rain threatened during the race's opening minutes, so there were drivers on the grid who would opt for a conservative start, but others who would look for any opportunity the weather could give them with an aggressive strategy. So all that's left is to see if Piastri could finish the job, if Norris could do something to turn the situation around, or if, on the contrary, some other driver could surprise us this weekend. And once the cars lined up on the starting grid, the lights would go out, and with that, the Dutch Grand Prix would begin. Piastri defended very well in the first few meters against any attempt from his teammate Verstappen. He uses the traffic jam and his soft tires to slip around turn 1 and pull alongside Piastri. And although he doesn't quite make it, he comes out close enough to Norris to make an aggressive move in turn 3, almost losing the car, but keeping second place in turn 4, making that soft tire count at the start. But if it didn't rain or a safety car didn't come out, was he eventually going to lose the position to Norris? Although, fortunately for him, he had Hadjar in 4th place, since he wasn't going to attack him and defended him from any possibility of Leclerc threatening his position. Leclerc made a brilliant move at turn 4, passing Joe Russell to get behind Hadjar. But he couldn't get past the Racing Bulls driver, who became a giant on the Dutch circuit. However, the expected rain never came in a way that affected the track conditions. By lap 9, with an outside move at turn 1, he took second place from Max Verstappen, finishing behind Oscar Piastri. At this point, the race stabilized. While waiting for the first pit stops, Norris stayed in Piastri's slipstream. Antonelli couldn't get past Tsunoda, and drivers on soft tires, like Tsunoda, began to struggle. Stistin started on soft tires, as did Lapinto, who also had a strong start to the race. He eventually returned the position to his teammate to manage the soft tire. Of the leading group, the first to pit would be Charles Leclerc on lap 23. But he was unlucky when Hamilton, pressuring Joe Russell, made a mistake in turn 4, hit the wall, and retired from the race. And with that, the first safety car of the day would have to come out. All his rivals would take advantage of this to pit, like the McLarens, Verstappen, Hadjar, and Russell. And since they stopped under the safety car, they ended up sending Leclerc right behind the British driver, in a real stroke of bad luck caused by his teammate. Only the Haas cars stayed on track, starting on hard tires and gambling on another safety car before pitting. Verstappen, meanwhile, opted for the medium tire this stint, aiming for a different strategy that would give him better tires for another kind of fight. The McLarens? The safety car would come in on lap 26, and once again the action resumed to continue the adventure of the Dutch Grand Prix. On the restart, Piastri held control and kept Norris from attacking. But further back, Sainz goes around the outside of turn 1 trying to overtake Liam Lawson. He refuses to give in, and the maneuver ends in a collision, damaging both drivers. And from being in the top 10, they drop to the bottom of the standings. Race control found Carlos Sainz responsible for the accident and gave him a 10-second penalty. And since Carlos's car started shedding parts on the track, a virtual safety car had to be deployed to remove those pieces. On laps 31 and 32, Leclerc tries to surprise Russell by going around the outside of turn 11. Russell blocks, but Leclerc forces through, overtakes, and damages both Russell's car and his own floor. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, for its part, investigated the maneuver but decided that it would be reviewed after the race. But the truth is that with the damage, Russell would lose pace in that Grand Prix. But Leclerc had managed to move forward and was now once again in a position to attack Isaac Hadjar, thanks to Antonelli passing Alex Albon on the same lap as the Leclerc and Russell contact. The British driver was given the order to let the Italian pass so he could try to score as many points as possible for the team, considering the damage to his car. But since no one could overtake at this stage and Leclerc remained behind Isaac Hadjar, the race stayed very stable. Mercedes experiments with strategy, pitting Antonelli on lap 52, seeking a different strategy and better tires to compete for a stronger result in this Grand Prix. To protect themselves, Ferrari calls Leclerc into the pits and he comes out ahead of the Italian, but he had in his plans to seek revenge for Russell. As a result, he becomes Osama bin Antonelli again. He dives inside at turn 4, but at that speed, he completes the maneuver. And in the end, he collides with Charles Leclerc, causing him to retire. In Italy, they're seriously considering revoking his passport and citizenship. Along with a 10-second penalty for causing the incident that led to Charles Leclerc's retirement, this later increased to a 15-second penalty, when he also exceeded the speed limit in the pit lane when he came in to change tires after the puncture caused by that accident. In any case, this retirement by Leclerc caused the appearance of the safety car, one that most drivers would once again take advantage of to enter the pits, where the McLarens gambled on finishing the race with a hard tire, while the rest of the drivers immediately behind the British team chose to finish with the soft tire. Very few drivers such as Pierre Gasly risked staying out on used tires at this circuit. Fernando Alonso, who pitted a few laps before this neutralization, or Gabriel Bortoleto. The safety car exited on lap 57. Once again, Piastri made use of his position to defend against any attempt that could come from his teammate. During the initial laps after the restart, Norris remained within 2 seconds of his teammate, but he couldn't get close enough to try any move to get into drag reduction system range. So it seemed that second place would be the best the British driver could hope for, but unfortunately for him, things would soon get much worse. Because on lap 66, Lando Norris reported smoke coming from the British driver's car. He was left stranded on the track, forced to retire from the race, in what would be a huge blow to his chances of becoming world champion in 2025. This would bring out another safety car, which would be perfect for Hadjar, who was now in a podium position. Tough luck for Antonelli, since this new neutralization meant he couldn't recover the 15-second penalty on track to remain in the points. At the end of the race, the safety car stayed on track until lap 68. And what we would have left would be 5 laps to see if anything could change in the final result of this race. Piastri defended his position flawlessly at the restart once again, so Verstappen didn't have a single chance to take the lead, even though he had better tires at this point. But things were a bit chaotic at the back, with Gasly trying to hold on to that 10th position with those extremely worn-out tires. He couldn't do much when Tsunoda dove into turn 11, overtook him, made contact and pushed him off the track, which made him lose the position to the Japanese driver. But it also left him defenseless against Esteban Ocon's attack after Colapinto unsuccessfully tried to overtake him. The Frenchman passed Pierre Gasly, and Colapinto tried to overtake on the outside up to Shea Black corner, but his teammate held the position, forcing Colapinto to back off to avoid contact. This caused him to lose time and eliminated his chance to attack. Esteban Ocon will move to 10th once André Kimi Antonelli's penalty is applied. This was practically the last battle that this race would give us, the battle to get into the last points position, thus ending the action at the Zandvoort circuit, where on lap 72, Piastri would cross the finish line. And with that, he would become the winner of the Dutch Grand Prix. 7th victory of the season for Oscar Piastri, who, with his teammates' retirement, becomes more of a leader than ever in the driver's standings. He now has a strong advantage heading into the final 9 rounds of the World Championship. With a Grand Slam victory, the World Driver's title is almost his. A World Championship defined by his strength and consistency. So this result in particular seems to be the beginning of his path toward his first Formula 1 World Driver's title. The rest of the top 10 at the Dutch Grand Prix would finish as follows. 2nd place for Max Verstappen in a race where he couldn't do much more. 3rd place and first podium for a brilliant Isaac Hadjar. George Russell finished 4th. Alex Albon secured 5th for Williams and Oliver Burman took 6th in a harsh comeback from him. Lance Stroll finishes 7th, benefiting from the strategy, while Alonso ends up 8th with a less favorable one. In addition to the safety cars, 9th place for Yuki Tsunoda, and closing out the top 10 Esteban Ocon, taking the last point for the Haas team. Today's race was flat in many ways on a circuit that's tough to overtake on. Numerous safety cars, varied strategies, and chaotic situations energized a Grand Prix that at times felt flat. My rating for this race will be 6.5 unusual race. It's hard for this race to be different without rain. At least the chaos of the final laps brought excitement to an already entertaining Grand Prix. At the end of this race, my drivers of the day are Oliver Bergman for that great comeback, making the team's strategy work, finishing 6th after starting from the pit lane. Oscar Piastri for his dominant win, achieving his first career Grand Slam. And Isaac Hayar, who with that great performance and defending against any attacks from his rivals, ends up achieving his first podium in Formula 1. My disappointment today is again Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who was having a good race recovering from yesterday's qualifying. And a mistake in a senseless maneuver leaves him with no chance to score points and finish the great race he was having. On the positive side, it seems like he has regained his pace, but mistakes like today's don't help at all with the confidence he seemed to have recovered, at least until the incident with Charles Leclerc. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the summary of the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. So, what did you think of the Grand Prix? Did you enjoy it or feel disappointed? Who were your top drivers? And your disappointments of the day at the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix of Formula 1? Let me know all your opinions in the comments section. Without further ado, I say goodbye by telling you that if you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so you know when I'm uploading a new video, and share this with your friends. Also, I invite you to follow us on our Instagram and Twitter accounts, the links to which will be in the description of this video. And I'll see you this Wednesday for the preview of the Italian Grand Prix. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.